Good evening. I know most of you, a couple I didn't, but I'm Michael Hoffman. I'm the pastor here, and I welcome all of you. I think you'll be glad that you came this evening. This is Jeremy. I think you probably figured that out right away without me having to tell you. I met Jeremy last May. He spoke at Cherry Valley to a group of fire chaplains, and I thought the presentation was just absolutely phenomenal. I thought it was so good that I invited Jeremy to come down and speak to our National Ministers Conference, and he did that as well. And I didn't want the pastors to have all the fun, so we invited Jeremy to come tonight so that you could hear what he has to say and benefit from that as well. And his family is here tonight as well. Sherry and Noah and Ellie are with us. They're all the way in the back row. Imagine that, Jeremy. In the back row. So, Jeremy will go till he's done. If you want to call a break somewhere in the middle, we can take a short break. But I think you'll be blessed. I think you'll learn a lot tonight. I think you'll be inspired and challenged and hopefully respond well by just being emboldened and to share your faith. So I look forward to you being blessed by Jeremy tonight. Let's start with prayer. Father, I'm thankful we can be here tonight. Just thankful for this opportunity to learn more, to be inspired in our faith, to share more, to talk about Christ in our lives and what he means and the difference he can make in other people's lives. There are many folks trying to put hindrances in the way of doing that. And so I just pray you'll empower Jeremy as he shares our rights to do that freely, and as he encourages and challenges us to do that. So speak through him tonight, Lord. May it just be a very powerful time, and we'll surrender the time to you. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Jeremy, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. Like Mike said, we've known each other for, not just almost shy of a year, and he has proven himself to be a man of integrity. When I say that, you hear that word a lot, integrity, and our world is lacking integrity. But when I say that about someone, that is probably the best compliment I can give about a human being, is to say it's someone of integrity. Don't go overboard. Yeah. So I mean it, but if ever you do something to change that, Mike, I guess I just don't want to hear it. So I'm going to talk tonight about our First Amendment rights. I'm going to give you some ideas of what's going on in the world, which if you're understand, I'm happy to have all of you here. I thank you very much. I thank you, Mike, for letting me have this opportunity. Mike and I were talking about that. Of course, it's all quality people here, right? Yep, I just love you all already. I have spoken many times. I have never had a packed house. Okay, you could say a lot of things about, well, people don't know about it. It's Sunday night. People want to be home, taking it easy before the work week, things like that. But the thing that concerns me the most, I teach at colleges. So I'm an attorney, but I've been teaching since 2004 at the bachelor's degree, master's degree. People don't care, and that's scary. The things that we're going to talk about tonight, I'm going to start out by showing you some cases that you may have already heard about, or if you haven't, you're going to hear about them tonight, and you should be genuinely concerned about what's going on in our country. I see this stuff and I go, oh my gosh, why is nobody getting up in arms about this? And it's too many people are more concerned about, who won the men's basketball tournament, or who won the Super Bowl, or who was on, the talk show last night, or what movie, got the most dollars over the weekend. I'm more concerned about that than the fact that our freedoms are eroding around us right now. And that is a huge concern. So, I like quotes. I have a huge collection of quotes from founding fathers. I always tell people, why would you want to hear things of people today? Would you rather hear or read what the people who started our country actually said? So you're going to see a lot of quotes, really good quotes, but I'm going to start out with a very famous quote from a very famous theologian, Linus Van Pelt. You know who Linus is? Brother of Lucille Van Pelt, friend of Charles Brown and Snoopy. Say, Mike, you can't answer this one because, my jokes, Mike's heard this one already. But Linus said, there are 3 things I have learned never to discuss with people: religion, politics, and the Great Pumpkin. Okay, my children would love if I talk about the Great Pumpkin, right? Yeah, they'd love it. My son always says, did you talk about the Great Pumpkin? Around Halloween time, maybe I'll talk a little bit about the Great Pumpkin, but not tonight. But we're going to talk about religion and politics. Now, I put that quote up there, 1, obviously, for the humorous aspect of it, but 2, this is how people think today. They don't want to talk about this stuff. They talk about this stuff, it's uncomfortable. They're afraid to talk about it. Who are they going to offend? And my concern is, with the way America is going right now, it is because people are afraid to talk about this stuff. So, I want to talk to you first and foremost. I'm going to kind of sound the alarm bell if you haven't already heard of these cases, but I'm going to reference some cases that are going on right now that you should know about, you should be following. Can I say I'm optimistic about the outcome? Maybe. What we've seen at the district court level and the appellate level is not good. Supreme Court right now is not good. Thankfully, we have a president who is going to appoint, has already appointed 1 conservative Christian judge, as close as you can get, if that's possible. And 2, hopefully he will appoint a 2nd or a 3rd, because our Supreme Court justices are getting up there in the years. And so there's got to be appointments, and it's better that we have the appointment now from who we have as president than what we could have had. Could have been really bad. So, first case, Trinity Lutheran Church of Columbia versus Pauley. Missouri Church runs a preschool and sought to participate in a 2012 playground scrap tire service material grant program. So the idea is on children's playgrounds, instead of having gravel or wood chips, they're using old tires that they shred, and they put it out for the kids so if they fall down, fall off the slide or something, not as many scrapes and bruises because they have the tire material. The church wanted to remove and replace a large portion of pea gravel on its playground, replace it with safer pour-in-place rubberized product. Missouri Department of Natural Resources disqualified this preschool, even though the state highly ranked the center as qualified for the program. So they said, no, we will not let you have the rubberized material in your playground. The Missouri Department of Natural Resources disqualified the preschool solely because Trinity Lutheran Church operates it. That was the grounds for why they did not want the preschool getting the rubber material, because it was owned by a church. Decision was made even though 90% of the children don't even attend the church. It's just a local daycare that parents have their kids go to. So the question comes is, are children who attend a church preschool less worthy of protection on a playground than those who attend a secular preschool? Is this a neutral viewpoint when it comes to religion? So essentially, hey, we're going to care about, the scrapes and bruises of kids everywhere except those darn Christian ones. Yeah, they go to a Christian preschool. Yeah, they're going to get their bumps and bruises all their own because we're going to disqualify them just because it's owned by a church, which is troubling. Next case. Brush and Nib Studio versus City of Phoenix. City of Phoenix ordinance forces owners of a calligraphy studio to use their artistic talents to promote same-sex wedding ceremonies. The ordinance also forbids the calligraphy studio from communicating their Christian beliefs in their art form. So the question on that is, should an ordinance be allowed to prevent the First Amendment rights of citizens and threaten jail time for expressing their beliefs? These people, the plaintiffs, are actually going to face possible jail time if they continue on saying, well, we have a First Amendment right to express our art form, and it's a Christian art form that we're practicing. And so they're facing potential loss of income and, not only that, jail time. Again, this is a scary thought. Next one, Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission. Jack Phillips, owner of Masterpiece Cake Shop, respectfully declined to create a wedding cake celebrating a same-sex marriage ceremony. At the time, so this case goes back, Supreme Court cases take a long time. At the time that this came out, same-sex marriage was not recognized in the state of Colorado. This was before the Supreme Court decision a couple years ago. The owner declined due to his religious belief that marriage is between one man and one woman. The owner offered to make the couple cakes for another occasion, or they could buy pre-made cakes for their event, which they declined. So he says to them, look, I've already got cakes made. You want to buy those for your wedding? Go ahead. Or he says, if you want to buy other stuff for me, I'm okay with that as well. I just don't want to design a cake that I believe goes against my First Amendment rights, where I know the definition of marriage created by God is one man, one woman. And so he makes an offer, a compromise. And they say, nope, not enough. So the ACLU, if you don't know about the ACLU, which I'm sure you've heard of them, what do I want to call them? The Anti-Christian League, the All About Communism League, you could call them that. ACLU filed a complaint with the Colorado Civil Rights Commission claiming sexual orientation discrimination. So years ago, when I was teaching at, like I said, I still teach at colleges, but years ago when I was teaching, I would say to my students that it was a genuine concern when they started putting in sexual orientation as one of the rights protected under civil rights. Here's why. Here's what's happening. It's the snowball effect. It's like the old Wile E. Coyote cartoons, where he starts the pebble at the top of the hill and he flicks it down and then it rolls. It is a snowball effect. It's happening right now. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I hit the wrong button. I hit the mouse button. Okay, thank you. Whoops. Okay, see, I should tape my finger to that button right there. That way I can't move. The ADF is the Alliance Defending Freedom. I am an allied attorney with the Alliance Defending Freedom. We're a Christian legal organization. There's about 3,000 attorneys. Some of the ADF are full-time people, which would be nice. Some of us are allied attorneys. I'm an allied attorney, which means I have my own law practice in Loves Park, Illinois, but I do pro bono hours for the ADF. So I help Christians when these issues have come up. I commit, they send me out for training. So I went in California in 2007. I went to California and did a week of training out there. And in return, I commit to perform 450 hours of pro bono work for the ADF. I passed that 450 hours years ago. So I'm now on their honor corps, which is cool. I'm happy to be, in the ADF. But the ADF is at least the one side. If you don't know the Alliance Defending Freedom, and I've got their website later on here, the Alliance Defending Freedom, you should know of them because they're the good guys, and we're fighting for Christian rights. So the ADF argued on behalf of the owner, claiming that he did not engage in sexual orientation discrimination because he objected to the message the cake would send, not the people requesting the cake. It also violates his First Amendment rights. We're waiting on this one. An administrative law judge rejected the ADF arguments, indicating that creating the cakes are not protected by the First Amendment and that the state could determine where the owner's rights ends and other rights begin. I mean, that reaction, that statement right there should be stunning to you. If you know what the 10th Amendment says, if you know the Bill of Rights and the 10th Amendment, where the 10th Amendment gives the power to the people. But a judge, administrative law judge, that's under the executive branch, which the president runs, says the state gets to determine where our rights end and another person's rights begin, which is disturbing, to say the least. The case has been appealed to the United States Supreme Court, and we're waiting. Amy Lynn Photography Studio versus the City of Madison. So this one's not far from here, City of Madison. There is a law in the City of Madison which makes it illegal for anyone to turn down requests that are inconsistent with a person's deeply held beliefs or to express beliefs that convey someone is unwelcome based on the person's sexual orientation or political beliefs. Just stop and think about that for a second, okay? The City of Madison is saying if you are a Christian, if you are Jewish, if you are Muslim, if you are an atheist, if you are a Republican, if you are a Democrat, and you firmly hold to that belief, and you say something or do something that makes someone feel unwelcome, they can fine you and they could possibly put you in jail. I teach in Madison. And I've been teaching in Madison since 2004. And the way I'm talking tonight, yep, I teach in my college classes this way. I'm amazed I haven't been tarred and feathered and run out of town on a rail or arrested. My name is Jeremy. My namesake is Jeremiah. Okay, Jeremiah was a doomsday prophet. But Jeremiah warned people. He warned the people of Israel. He said, you're doing bad things. And because you're doing those bad things, God is turning away from you. And because God's turning away from you, bad things are coming. You know what they did to Jeremiah? They chained him up naked in the middle of town where he was, throwing garbage at and things like that. I really don't want that. It's not a long-term goal for me. But I continue to teach in Madison because there has to be someone out there speaking truth and common sense. My adjunct professor pay, you don't make a living off it, that's for sure. It helps, but I think one of the main reasons I keep teaching is because I will have students. I have students who just hate me from the get-go. I can't make everybody happy, but I will have students who will come to me and say, you are the only professor who actually taught us from a conservative Christian viewpoint. And most of the colleges I teach for are Christian colleges. And I will say to them, I'm like, you take theology classes, right? Yeah. What about your professor for your theology classes, for your religion classes? Oh, the Bible's just a made-up bunch of stories. It's not true, can't be, trusted. And they're getting this in a Christian university. So the only one who's teaching them a conservative biblical Christian viewpoint is the law and government professor. How goofed up is that? So the City of Madison. So the law clearly violates the rights of a Christian photographer. That's who Amy Lynn is. But it also forces others to comply with organizations that go against their political or religious beliefs, Christian or not. It is telling people, you must do this, you must say this, you must restrain yourself from saying things because it might have people feel unwelcome. And, we got all the snowflakes around and they need their safe places and you can't offend them, which is a scary thought. This one, you gotta know this one. If you haven't heard this case, that's okay. You're here tonight, that's good. But if you have not heard what happened in the state of Washington, this one should literally stun you. You should be, I'm sorry, I know God doesn't want us to worry. I know. Jesus said, worrying doesn't add 1 second to your life. But still, when you see a case like this, you got to stop and think, what's going on here? So, in the state of Washington, you know darn well if I put that on the corner, I'm going to knock it over at some point. State of Washington, Bernell Stutzman, the sole owner of Arlene's Flowers in Richland, Washington, she has served and employed people who identify as homosexual. So she's had customers who live that lifestyle. She's had employees who live that lifestyle, and she's done it for quite some time. A longtime customer, Robert Ingersoll, and another man, Kurt Fried, approached her to have her provide flowers for their same-sex wedding. Based upon her religious belief, her Christian beliefs, protected by the First Amendment, Ms. Stutzman declined to provide these services and indicated another florist who could provide the requested services. Sound familiar? Like the cake shop incident before? Hey, they come in, flowers for our wedding. And she says, no, I don't support that kind of definition of wedding. I have to turn that down. I have a Christian, First Amendment Christian right to deny it. And she says, but here's another person who can do the job much better. Well, she didn't say much better. Well, maybe she did. Here's another person who could provide the services, and they say that's not enough. So, ACLU and the Washington, and now here's where it gets scary. Of course, ACLU, you got to know the ACLU is going to jump all over this kind of case. But here's where it gets scary. The State of Washington Attorney General jumped in on this case. And they alleged that Ms. Stutzman was guilty of discrimination based upon sexual orientation. Again, the snowball effect. The anti-discrimination law states that the general public may not violate anti-discrimination law, even on the basis of sincerely held religious beliefs. You believe in what the book of Romans says about homosexuality? Yeah, that's not enough. You believe that the Bible is God's inerrant word? That's not enough. Who cares if you think of that? You're discriminating. Washington Attorney General and the ACLU have asked that the damages, the damages and fees for the case not be limited to the corporation Arlene's Flowers, but also to Ms. Stutzman personally, which was approved. So understand, this flies in the face of hundreds of years of law. I have clients come to me and they say, well, I have apartments, or I have, a farm that I'd like to stay in the family, or, I have an idea for a business. What should I do? And I say to them, well, you should set up a S corporation, C corporation, LLC, because I'm limiting their liability, right? That's the idea behind it. So I say, even myself, I'm the Ramsey Law Firm, the sprawling metropolis of me, myself, and I. But I am a corporation, so that if someone were to sue the Ramsey Law Firm, they would get, a computer, a printer, some office furniture, some office supplies. That would be it, right? Limited liability. That's the basic concept of creating a corporation. In this case, the Attorney General, the state of Washington pretty much said, we're just going to go right through that. Who cares what years and years of law have established? We're going to allow that. Not only are we going to take everything of her business, which they are, if they're successful, and this one's going to go to the Supreme Court, but they said, we also want her held personally liable for this. Do you know how expensive it is to take a case all the way up to the Supreme Court? And this is going slow track, okay? This is not a fast track one. They started in the state of Washington and went up District Court, Washington, Appellate Court of Washington, Supreme Court of Washington. Now they have to go, because here, this is the scary thing, 9-0 decision, which that's staggering. 9-0 decision. State of Washington Supreme Court said that, a government can force individuals to create artistic expression and participate in events in which they disagree. There have been, courtesy of the ACLU and the Attorney General of the state of Washington. The Attorney General of the state of Washington did not have to get involved in this case. They could have said, ACLU's got it, let's just leave it alone. They went into the case. The ADF, who's representing Ms. Stutzman, they petitioned the court and said, don't allow the Attorney General's office in on this case. Or it's just ACLU and us, let's just leave it at that. It's going to be expensive enough. And of course the judges said, no, we'll let the Attorney General in on this. So she's paying for, in losing, she's paying for the fees that the Attorney General of the state of Washington have amassed and the ACLU. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to get all the way up to the state Supreme Court level, and then now they're going to go to the federal Supreme Court on this one. And so they're saying to her, Do you see this? Hey, would you do the flowers for our wedding? And she says, no, I don't believe in that. Here's another florist who will do just a fine job. We'll see you in court because you violated our sexual orientation. Fights it all the way up, loses, and now they're going to wipe her out completely. I mean, think about that. My wife and I talk about this regularly, where I'm an attorney, she's a mental health counselor. Yeah, my wife, mental health counselor, comes in handy when you're married to me. If someone of that lifestyle would come to us and ask us to do something that affirms their marriage, and we said, sorry, I can't do that because I don't support that, we will have picketers, we will have lawsuits, we will face possible jail time. Our lives will be completely turned upside down, just like hers is. But now here's the interesting thing. It's amazing, the hypocrisy here. Where's the ACLU in filing a lawsuit against a Muslim organization? Because in case you haven't read or heard, the Quran and the Muslims, they're worse on homosexuality than the Christians are. Christians say this is a sinful lifestyle, God doesn't support it, you should not live that lifestyle. Okay? But hate the sin, not the sinner, right? The Quran says what for homosexuals? You kill them, right? When does the ACLU file that lawsuit against the Muslim organization? There was someone years ago wanted to have, they were part of a skinheads organization. They went to a local Walmart, to the deli counter at a local Walmart, and said, we want a cake for our, apparently skinheads like cakes, which I guess. And they said, we want a cake, and we want it to say like a pro-Nazi message. And Walmart said, no, we will not have a cake that has a pro-Nazi message. Where was the ACLU? Why didn't anybody take that one up? But it seems that you go after the Christians, and that's okay. But everybody else is okay. Everybody else is protected. Just don't go after the Christians. So, why is that happening? Why is it happening today? First, and I'm going to talk about some different topics here. First one, ignorance. Ignorance. I will teach classes, and I will ask my students all kinds of questions about pop culture. And they'll answer them just like that. I'll ask them, what's your rights under the 7th Amendment? And they'll say, what's the 7th Amendment? Who's your governor? Hopefully they can get that one. Who's your state senator? No clue. So ignorance is running rampant. Second, separation of church and state. If there is a phrase that has been overused in our history and drives me insane when I hear it, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard when I hear people use this phrase as their scapegoat, as an excuse to get out of any uncomfortable situation they're in. And most people don't understand where it came from or what it was actually intended for. 3, the judicial system. Judicial system is running all over us every day. They're not usually elected. They don't have term limits. They're doing whatever they want. They're supposed to be fair and impartial, and we're not seeing that today. And 4, political correctness. Something that's ruining our world today, political correctness. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go out and be a jerk to someone, right? I'm not advocating for that. But it gets to a point now where you can't say things because you sit there and you go, uh-oh, who did I offend? I taught class last Thursday, and we were talking about civil rights laws. We were talking about the whole bathroom issue. It's amazing. I've been on this earth 42 years. I never envisioned in 42 years' time that it would become an issue as to who gets to go in what bathroom. I look at sign on one door, and I know the type of genetics or type of organs you have to go to that door, and I know the other kind that you need to go to the other door. Are any of you shopping at Target? Don't shop at Target, okay? It's up to you. You have a right to choose, but Target is saying that it is appropriate for whatever sex you feel that you are that day. That's the bathroom you use. Okay, now, I'm a former judge advocate for the United States Army, so I'm a proponent of the Second Amendment. I'm a really good shot. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I joke with people all the time, but there's seriousness to this. When my daughter, someday when she's 35, and I allow her to date, oh, see, my wife's going like that, thumbs up, 40? I still fit in my Class A uniform, look pretty good in it, and that poor lad who comes to my door the first time ever, yeah, I'll put on the uniform, and I'll just be happening to clean my firearms that day. I'll say, please, have a seat. Let me show you what these can do. Now, what time are you planning on getting my daughter home? The stance right now is that if I go to the Target store, which I do not shop at Target anymore, and I would encourage you to make that same choice, but it's up to you. If I go to a Target store right now, my wife is seeing a client, and I'm playing Mr. Mom, I got the kiddos with me. I go to a Target store, my daughter says, Daddy, I have to go to the bathroom. Okay, my 8-year-old daughter is too old to go in the men's room. Okay, that's going to be weird and uncomfortable. So, and I'm, as common sense, dictates, I'm not going into the ladies' room because I don't have the parts, right? But if I send my 8-year-old daughter into the ladies' room and I'm waiting outside, and some dude who feels that he wants to identify as a female also goes to the ladies' room, guess where I'm going? I'm going in the ladies' room. And if I see that guy trying to take a peek at my daughter, you better believe, one of us is either going to be carried out in handcuffs or to the coroner's office, because I'm not going to allow for that. And we live in a world that if I say that, I'm offending someone. Which, and you can check this, ever since Target, two things. Ever since Target said that this is their policy, one, their value of their stock has gone down drastically. Two, there have been several arrests of sexual predators going into the ladies' room at Target trying to take photos of ladies in the ladies' room. You ladies, you've got to, I see this and I'm like, I'm not okay with this. This makes me unhappy. But you ladies should be hearing this stuff and going, that violates our privacy. And it does. And sorry, I'm going to get a little gross here. Okay. Men, we're not clean in the bathroom, right? My wife has me well trained. The seat is always down, things like that. But you really want to share a bathroom with us? I barely want to share it with other guys, for crying out loud. And so now this is the law. Barack Obama, 8 years. What has he accomplished? One, he's doubled our national debt. Two, he's now made it confusing as to what bathroom you go into. Great. That is fantastic for a president. Okay, sorry, I digress. This is my favorite quote ever from any president, ever, any founding father, any historical figure. This is my favorite quote. This is from President James Garfield. I believe James Garfield would have been one of our best presidents, if not the best president, had he not been assassinated early on in his career. James Garfield said, "Now more than ever before, the people are responsible for the character of their Congress." Now, he said Congress there. He meant government, and I'm going to say government there. So the people are responsible for the character of their government. If that body be ignorant, reckless, and corrupt, it is because the people tolerate ignorance, recklessness, and corruption. I give citizenship exams to my students. Every time I teach a class, I give a citizenship exam to my students. What percent do you think pass my citizenship exam? Mike can't answer. And my wife can't answer either. They know the answers. What percentage? Throw out a number. What percentage of passing rate of my students in, let's see, how many years I've been teaching? 13 years of teaching. Who said? 3? 12? 15? Any others? It's about 1. 1% passing rate. Passing rate. Which means 99% of my students are failing a citizenship exam. And here's the sad thing. My students who have passed, most of my students who pass the citizenship exam are my international students who are studying here from another country. They know more about their fundamental rights than what the born and raised United States citizens do in my classes. So why are things going wrong? Because we are ignorant. Now, let me ask you a question. If I say that you're ignorant, have I insulted you? No. I always tell the story. My daughter, one time, my wife was seeing a client. My daughter came to me and said, "Daddy, can you put my hair in a bun?" And I thought back on, I could get a hot dog bun. I could put a rubber band around it, and looked pretty good, right? I tried. I didn't do the hot dog thing. I tried to put her hair in a bun. And I remember my daughter, yep, she's shaking her head no. Now, I remember her looking at it and going, "Oh, Daddy," I am ignorant of how to put women's hair in a bun, okay? Someone could teach me. It would probably take a very long time. My wife and daughter could probably, take a weekend seminar and try and teach me how to do it, and maybe I'd get a little bit better. But I'm ignorant of that. Ignorance is not knowing something. You hear the saying, ignorance is bliss. I disagree. I think ignorance is a plague. Ignorance causes death. Ignorance causes holocausts. But the great thing is, ignorance can be cured, but you have to have the ability to do it. Samuel Adams said, "No people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can any be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. On the contrary, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders." That is happening right now in our country. Benjamin Franklin says, "A nation of well-informed men who have been taught to know and prize the rights which God has given them cannot be enslaved. It is in the region of ignorance that tyranny begins." That's funny. I was always taught in school that Benjamin Franklin was an atheist, but he's referencing the rights that God gives. So what's the cure for ignorance? Well, let's look to the Bible first. In 1 Peter 3:15, it says, "But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect." 2 Timothy 3:16-17, "All Scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work." Everything, I remember Charles Stanley, years ago, I heard him give a sermon where he said, and I believe this, now people will hear this and they'll roll their eyes sadly, but he said, if you took the Bible and you led a country just on the teachings of the Bible, you would have the most amazing, prosperous, upright nation ever. We started out that way, but sadly we've forgotten our roots. So, let me ask you a question. What's the most important step in building a house? Foundation. Yeah. You chip away at the foundation, your house is going to fall apart, right? So you don't have a good foundation, you're not going to have a good house. So my same question is, what's the most important step of building a government? It's a foundation, but we'll get there. We'll get to the Constitution. So you ask, well, what is the foundation of our government? Who gives us our rights? The scary thing today that I see a lot of is people saying, the government gives me my rights. When we were in Atlanta, I didn't share this with you, Mike. When we were in Atlanta, after we went to Atlanta, we took some vacation time, went to Florida. So we had a lot of walking ahead of us. On literally the first day we were in Atlanta at the pastor's conference, my daughter's sandal broke. Like brand new sandals, and the little stitching on the back just popped off. I went, oh boy, we need sandals because we got a lot of walking coming up. And the super glue idea that I had, that wasn't going to do it. So we went, there was a Walmart nearby. Went to Walmart, went to look for sandals. We didn't find any, unfortunately. But I saw outside of Atlanta, Georgia, a Walmart where in the front of the store, where you usually have like the hair salon or the bank or the McDonald's, there was a check cashing place. And we were there at the end of the month, kind of towards the beginning of the month. The line zigzagged out through the whole store and almost out into the Walmart. And I saw that and I went, it's welfare day. The government gives you what you need, right? Government gives you what you need. President Ford said, a government that can give you everything can also take it away. But there are people who don't care. The government gives them their rights. So, I want to talk to you about a concept called natural law. And I have two questions for you. Are all laws moral? Is all morality legal? Oh, my wife's here. I get to embarrass my wife, and she's actually here. I'm going to pay for it later. Okay, I'm going to give you two scenarios. One's a real case, one's a hypothetical that I like to use. First one, there's a lady on the East Coast who lived near a courthouse, and she would see every day that people would go, they'd park at the meter, they'd go in to handle their court case, they'd come back out, the meter had expired, they had a parking ticket. So she said, well, what would, poor people, they have to go to court, and then they have a ticket, what can I do to help them? So she would take a little change jar. She'd go around every day and she'd feed the meters. Just go to each meter that looked like it was going to expire, put money into it. Is that legal? Not unless you can establish an agency relationship with the person who owns the car. It is illegal to feed the meter for someone else. Why? Because the county gets more, city gets more for the ticket than they do the meter. They ticketed her. She pled guilty, and no more feeding the meters. Morally correct, also illegal. Now let me give you my scenario. Used to be on Thursday nights from 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock at night, if you called my house, you were risking the possibility of having a homicide against you by my wife. Because on Thursday nights from 9 to 10 o'clock was ER, right? I hate that show with a passion. I have seen every episode of ER. Why? Because I'm a good husband, and I fear for my life. My wife would watch ER. Now, I'll give you a scenario, and my wife, she might have to take a drink of water or something, cool down from this. There was a character on ER called Luca. Oh, Luca. He was tall, dark, handsome, great physician, great physique. Let's say Luca goes on vacation sometime, right? So he's every Thursday night from 9 to 10 o'clock, he's saving all these lives. He needs a break. So he goes someplace tropical, and he likes to run in the morning to keep himself fit and, his physique looking good for all those ladies who watch Thursday nights from 9 to 10 o'clock. So he likes to run on the beach. One morning he gets up and he's jogging along the beach. He's sweating, he's perspiring, his hair's glistening. Are you okay, dear? Oh, she ducked down. Luca, as he's running, he sees someone on the side, laying on the beach, and the person's clutching their left arm and saying, oh, my chest hurts. Obviously having some type of cardiac arrest, heart attack. Now, Luca has saved thousands of people Thursday night from 9 to 10 o'clock, right? So he could stop, maybe he's got a phone on him, he's got some Bear aspirin. He could stop, pop the little Bear aspirin under the person's tongue, and take care of them, right? But he says, I've got a good sweat going. I do that all the time, Thursday nights from 9 to 10 o'clock. I'm just going to keep running. Has he done anything illegal? No. Immoral? Yes. Illegal? No. So you've got two contrasts here. Our law is moral. Is morality legal? So the question comes is, well, then how do you have law? What's the foundation of our law? I've had atheists in my classes. That's always tons of fun. I welcome the challenge. I'm not disrespectful. I expect the same back from them, which sometimes is asking too much. But I've had atheist students who will say, well, there is no God. I had a class, the guy said, there is no God. And he or she, if they exist, gee, sounds like you have a little doubt there. I don't believe in them. I said, okay, well, then you don't believe in the law. Well, what do you mean? I said, okay, let me give you a scenario. And I'll give you guys the same scenario. Okay, when I get done tonight, I want to get home, right? I want to get home. I got to get ready for the week coming up. You guys might all prevent me from getting out of the parking lot quickly. So during our break, I'm going to go out in the parking lot and I'm going to slash all your tires, right? Because you'll all be fixing your tires and I'll just be like, see ya. Thanks for having me. As I head out. I've done something illegal? How do you know? If there is no lawgiver, if there is no design to what the law is, if you don't know what's right from wrong, because no one instilled that into you, how do you know? I don't have a good answer on that one yet. I have good answers that come from the Bible, but my atheist students don't. So, we have to go back to the concept of natural law. Natural law is, per se, the foundational principles of right and wrong, which are both right for all and at some level known to all. When I asked you before, who gives you your rights? And I said, it's scary to me that some people will say, well, the government gives me rights. Wow. No. God gives you rights. Why do we have a Constitution? Why do we have a Bill of Rights? Because our founding fathers said, well, we have an idea of natural law. We know what God wants, what powers and rights God has given us. We need to have documents that protect that. So, that's my question. Do the founders of the United States support natural law? Wow, they were all atheists and deists, right? That's what my school teacher taught me. Let's look at the Declaration of Independence. Declaration of Independence says, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. People don't know this today. And where's our world going today? These are important concepts that are not being taught in the schools, and people are not paying attention to them, and it is the result of why our country's going the wrong way. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That sounds to me like the founding fathers believed in God, believed in the rights that God gives us, and said that government is instituted according to the powers that we give them. But it doesn't seem to be happening today. So, you already answered the question. What's the supreme law of the United States of America? The Constitution. So I've got a couple quotes about what the founding fathers thought about the Constitution. Patrick Henry, first governor of Virginia, said, "The Constitution is not an instrument for the government to restrain the people. It is an instrument for the people to restrain the government, lest it come to dominate our lives and interests," which is happening right now. Supreme Court Justice Benjamin Curtis said, "When a strict interpretation of the Constitution is abandoned, and the theoretical opinions of individuals are allowed to control its meaning, we have no longer a constitution, we are under the government of individual men, who for the time being have power to declare what the Constitution is according to their own views of what it ought to mean." That is happening right now. This was predicted, and it's happening. But we're smarter than them, right? They were just a bunch of Christian farmers who created a nation. What did they know? John Jay, first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, said every member of the state ought diligently to read and study the Constitution and teach the rising generation to be free. By knowing their rights, they will sooner perceive when they are violated and be the better prepared to defend and assert them. Our first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court said you should know the Constitution and you should teach it to the future generations. Why? Because someone at some point in time is going to try to take those God-given rights from them, and they had better know how to defend them. Why is it alarming that 99% of my students are failing a citizenship exam? Right there. So, let me ask you another very important question that most people don't have the answer to. And now you guys will probably get the right answer, so you'll probably steal my thunder. What form of government are we intended to have in the Constitution, in the United States of America? What form of government? I see you ruined it for me. What's the normal answer I get from people when I say what form of government are we supposed to have? Democracy. Yep. My students all the time watch television, and they'll say, what government do you have in the United States? Oh, we have a democracy. Are we supposed to have a democracy? Okay. President James Madison had this to say about democracies. Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. President John Adams said, remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. What does he know? He was only there when the creation of our nation was going on, right? John Adams, what does he know? John Quincy Adams, apple doesn't fall far from the tree, thankfully, says, the experience of all former ages had shown that of all human governments, democracy was the most unstable, fluctuating, and short-lived. Benjamin Franklin, this is one of my favorites. Democracy is two wolves and a lamb deciding what to have for dinner. Liberty is a well-armed lamb. There's your Second Amendment argument right there. So, under Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, by all means, check me on this. It says, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government. Okay, well, what does that mean? A republic is a state in which supreme power is held by the people and is exercised by their elected representatives, and which has an elected or nominated president rather than a monarch. What that means is we are the people in charge, and they do what we tell them at all levels. Now, I support police officers. I obviously support the military. It bothers me. I saw it last Thursday night when I was done teaching a law class and I was leaving Madison. There was a police officer that cut across all 3 lanes of traffic just so that he could go. Apparently, he was in the left lane and decided, I need to turn right at the light. Cut across all 3 lanes. Cut in front of me, other people, to do that. Is that right? When I was an assistant state's attorney, this was when I was in Stevenson County, I had Friday mornings were always traffic court days. And I remember we had a bunch of bench trials. I'm driving on Highway 20 going out to Stevenson County, out to Freeport. And there's police officers flying by me on Highway 20. No lights on, not going to an emergency. How do I know? Because I know who's there, who they are, and I know why they're going to court. That's my witnesses. And they're speeding to go to the courthouse. So I go in. Now, granted, I know my Schwarzenegger physique here, and I'm in a room with a whole bunch of police officers, and I'm feeling spry or suicidal, I don't know, masochistic. And I say one of the officers, I'm talking to him about this bench trial we're about to have, and I say, Yeah, it's bothering me. And I say, I've got a question for you. And now he and I are just talking. Everybody else is having their own conversation. It's loud in the room. And I say to him, I saw you coming to court this morning, and you were flying down 20. You passed me. You were in the left-hand lane the whole time, which I hate when people stay in the left-hand lane. At least he was passing, so I got to give him credit. But I say to him, how is it that you could speed here, but yet I'm supposed to go into court and prosecute someone who you gave a speeding ticket to? So why can you break the law and nobody else can? And it got quiet in the room. Everybody was talking, silence. And I'm like, oh man, what do I do now? And he leans in, and these are all armed guys, and they're way bigger than I am. He leans into me, and he goes, because we can. And they all burst into laughter. I chuckled a little bit because I was fearful of my safety. I walked back into the courtroom, and I went, case dismissed, case dismissed, case dismissed, case dismissed. Did I tell those officers that I did that? No. Which is probably why I'm still here talking to you guys today. Did I want to? Oh, yeah. It's nobody is above the law. Nobody. From dog catcher all the way up to president or Supreme Court justice. Nobody is above the law. Well, we've gone into a world, unfortunately, in a country where, here, you want to know what we really have in the United States today? You can look this one up. We have an oligarchy. An oligarchy. An oligarchy is where the power and the money is held by a very small number, and they control the rest of us. Now, I'm not going to be one of the, bleeding snowflake 98%ers, right, living in a tent outside of Wall Street. I'm not going for that. We are supposed to have the power. The founding fathers wanted us to have the power and to tell our elected officials what to do, not the other way around. We have the most millionaires running our government that we've ever had in the history of our nation. They passed a law a couple years ago saying no more insider trading for us. If you're a congressperson or a senator or president, you know insider trading information, you invest because you have insider information, that's illegal. I'm sure they're really enforcing that one. They're rich. They don't know what our lives are like, and they're supposed to be representing us. We have an oligarchy, I'm sorry to say. Okay, let's take a break right now. We're about an hour in, so yeah, let's take a break. Try to make it quick if you can, please. Holy moly, I have a lot more stuff to get through, and I better start talking a little bit faster. So take a break, 5 minutes-ish, and then I'm going to jump into separation of church and state.